What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Mortal Kombat 11. I've done it. I've gone through so many of these games. This makes 5 Mortal Kombat games that I've played from start to finish. Maybe not the multiplayer components too much, trying to test out the different features or different modes, whether it's the challenge towers or whatever. I've gone through 5 of these: Mortal Kombat 9, 10, 11, Mortal Kombat vs. DC, and Shaolin Monks, all within the last month and a half. I feel really good. I am so insanely excited for the story mode of Mortal Kombat 1. It's actually not even funny, but I'm here to talk about Mortal Kombat 11. A game that I like. I'll start off right there. I like this game, but I do think there's some flaws, not just in the story. Now, that's where we're going to talk most about it, because that's why I'm actually playing all of these games, is for the story. But I'm also starting to realize some things in terms of how they set up, the actual fighting system, of the costumes and the microtransactions and all that stuff. We got quite a bit to talk about here. But before I go too much further, if you do like these videos, make sure you leave it a like. I'm sorry to report this is probably the last Mortal Kombat video for at least a little while on this channel, but don't worry, we'll go back, and I got plenty of other games to cover. But this was, again, kind of necessary, right? It really felt like an ending of the trilogy. That's something that I guess I should have expected, considering you think 9, 10, 11, 11 ends, and then 1. I guess 1 is continuing from what 11 did, right? But doing it kind of an all-new way. There's going to be voice actor kind of swappings, in and out, so it's not exactly like a 4th game in it, but it kind of is, right? But this game is overall good. Again, like I said in the beginning, I do like it, but it's probably, I gotta be honest, I think it's the weakest of the 3 in this trilogy of 9, 10, 11. I think 10 is the best, just kind of all throughout. I think it feels, and like we talked about in that video, the fights feel the best out of all of these games, which is actually kind of weird, because you think, well, as they get newer and the graphics and the visuals, and just when you connect on a hit, you would maybe think it's a little bit better. No, I think 10 honestly is the best. I stand by 9 is the best story. I think story-wise, it goes 9, 10, 11 in that order. I think 10 is kind of a flawed story, but so is 11. Now, what I'll say about 11 is there are a lot of incredible moments in the story, but I would say not for every great thing there's a bad thing, but there's definitely more bad things in this game's story than in the past one. So let's kind of walk through it. Let's give some examples here, so I'm not just giving generalities. I think cinematically, this game is a 10 out of 10. I think when it goes for it with epic, massive battles, or even kind of like WTF, it just kind of does some wacky things, it really nails it. Now, when this game first came out, I played it. I got to level 10 or 11 in terms of, your character level. And I think through the first, at least 1 chapter of the game. I guess what I'm trying to say is I knew Sonya died. Okay, that was a big thing for me going into this game. I knew she died early on. I knew that Kronika was the villain, but I didn't know who she was or motivation, really. I just remember, seeing her character model. So I did play this, and I bought it, actually. I bought it day 1 when it came out, but I really didn't experience it, I would say, almost at all. So replaying it now, or really playing it, I'd say from start to finish for the first time, the Sonya thing I thought was actually done pretty well, and the character deaths that they do, mainly through, let's say, the main game. We're going to talk about Aftermath, because Aftermath is a huge part of this thing, right? But I think they did a really good job. When they kill off Scorpion, I was like, holy dear God, I did not know that they did that, and that was pretty epic to me. The one thing that caught me off guard that I think took me a little while to figure out if I was going to like or not was using the multiverse, I guess, kind of again, right? So we've already kind of had this theme of jumping through time or fate and trying to change fate or trying to change destiny. We've actually already done that in these games not that long ago. And then for the theme of this game to be, we're going to kill off a main character, and we still have some dead characters, right? We have to do something with Liu Kang and Kitana. What are we going to do? And then one element we're just going to throw in almost immediately, like Sonya dies, and the next chapter is we're going to just bring people back from all of these different eras. We're going to like immediately get rid of the Raiden that's causing issues. And that one was a little weird because I got to be honest, at the end of 10 with dealing with Shinnok, right? And then you start 11, which I think is epic with him torturing him and cutting off his head. I think that's epic. I thought, again, like I didn't really know. Like I knew Chronica, like I remember the character model and I remember the hourglass and the sand and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't really know what the plot of this game was. I thought it would maybe be dealing with evil, or I think Dark Raiden, right, is kind of the name. I thought that would be the idea, but instead they immediately get rid of him, bring in the Raiden from, I guess, basically a little bit in the beginning of MK9. I mean, I guess that's the time period that they're bringing these characters back right after that fight, and then you kind of restart. Now, that's where the new plot begins, and there's the revolutions, and you know, Shao Kahn, and he comes back against Kotal Khan, and Katana takes over, and oh my god, it literally just keeps going. It's good. I mean, I think a lot of it, honestly, is done for the best. It just took me a while, I would say, to kind of like appreciate that, okay, we're doing the multiverse thing, we're bringing characters from a different time period to almost like just fill in the gaps that we have because maybe they didn't like, you know, going into 11 with a much smaller team and they were going to be focusing on different characters. I really don't actually know behind the scenes what the reasoning was there, but I did overall enjoy it. I would say Chronica, I don't know. I liked her overall. I would not say I liked her as much as Shao Kahn in 9 in terms of just how destructive he was to kind of everything. Also, by the way, they kept blaming Raiden in this game, and yes, Raiden makes a lot of mistakes, and he ultimately does cause some pretty big problems, but correct me if I'm wrong in this like lore thing that we're doing here. Like MK9, it was really kind of Shao Kahn's fault, right, that everything happened. Now, like Raiden definitely, like when he was seeing the future, he was trying to not fall for the same things that would get him to that future, so he was trying to do different things. He messed up. He did get so many people killed that it's actually unbelievable, but ultimately, he really wouldn't have had to do any of that stuff if it wasn't for Shao Kahn. So Chronica coming in and saying, well, I'm going to fix time and you messed everything up, and so we need to do this kind of, we need to have a universe without Raiden, and it's going to be kind of like unaffected by all this garbage. But it was kind of Shao Kahn's fault, at least from my perspective, that he's the one who broke the rules multiple times in 9. He destroyed, he weakened the Elder Gods. He was going to take over everything. That doesn't really seem like it was Raiden's fault that happened. So that was kind of, but I mean, I will say it's kind of an aside, but I was thinking that, no joke, the entire time of MK11. So it's like, I don't really know why we're going to consistently, even like the dead characters blaming Raiden, even the alive characters sometimes blaming Raiden. It's not always his fault. He did make the little, you know, oopsie towards the end of MK11 in terms of fighting Scorpion, but he resolved, I guess, and also Liu Kang, but he fixed himself and it was all okay. Like I said, I think when this game goes for it in terms of cinematics, and I mean, I could talk kind of for days about that, all the cutscenes are so well done. The acting, I want to say, almost all of them are extremely good. We talked about this in the past with like Shaolin monks, and you know, leads to 9, or I guess technically Mortal Kombat versus DC, and then 9, 10, 11. And as these games progressed, I think they started to take themselves more seriously. Now, on one side of things, that leads to a little bit of like convolutedness, and you got to give them some of it. But it also, I think, led to everything's extremely well done. Cinematics are done with care and respect, and they look really good. The acting is actually good. It's not cheesy, and it progressively gets better as the games go on. I think some things were done better, some things were done worse. Cassie Cage, as one example, actually, I think she got better. I actually like Ashley Birch quite a lot. She voiced her in 10. It was a different actress in 11. I thought it was day and night how much better that character was in 11 than she was in 10, even though 10, she had a much bigger kind of role of actually defeating, Shinnok at the end of it. But then you have somebody like Sonya, who took a massive, now obviously she died, so it's her past self or younger self, but oh my god, I think it was Ronda Rousey, right, that did the voice of her. I got nothing against her, but that was probably the most terrible character in this game. I actually would probably say that for sure. Sonya, I like playing as her, and we'll talk about some of the gameplay in a second. I like playing as her still. She's actually one of my favorite characters to control in any of these games, but holy god, I couldn't get behind her in any of the emotion. The thing they were trying to do with when, she dies, and so it's a younger version. She doesn't have kids, but you have Johnny Cage, you have Cassie, and it's like they look at her still as their mom and wife, but she doesn't look at them the same. Honestly, kind of like a Gamora thing in like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but done before it. I think that's very powerful. I actually think, you can look at Guardians or other examples of how to do it well. I don't know if they did it well. And I think it's because of the acting. I think it's just it didn't all hit. I actually thought Johnny Cage was one of the best characters by a mile in this game. I like it when he's kind of more serious. And he's like in his 50s in the universe, right? So he's taken some time. He's gotten older. He's mellowed out. And they even kind of made notice of that when, he was talking to his younger self. I actually really liked that. Just something about that dynamic between the three of them didn't work for me. But on the flip side, I actually really liked like the Liu Kang and Kung Lao. I'm really happy, they were brought back. I guess on the flip side of everybody kind of coming back from the dead, almost in a cheap way, I guess, depending on how you look at it, is, okay, well, we get to play around with these characters again. Like, this could be really, really fun. And Kung Lao and Liu Kang are really, really fun together. Having a katana that's alive, that's a really fun thing and a I would say pretty necessary thing in a lot of these games. So I think they did it for the best. Again, I'd say overall it was the right decision because of what you got out of it. I think towards the end when they're having their ship battle and then they make land and they go and they attack the army, I thought that was absolutely incredible. I loved Liu Kang and Raiden fusing and really how that all kind of came about, where every single timeline they always fight. Liu Kang always seems to die from Raiden, and you have to kind of break that trend somehow. And how do you do it? Well, you got to free the dead Liu Kang, and then you have to merge yourself with, I guess you just have to merge yourself in general. And I thought that was extremely cool, and that made Liu Kang already, who's one of the better fighters, I think, in the whole franchise, even more fun. He is a blast to play as I've talked about in past videos as well. So story overall has maybe the highest highs of any of these games. Even like when they do the Scorpion and Sub-Zero, these are like elderly men. These are like, aging masters, and they're working on a stealth mission. They're working together, and then, again, Scorpion dies by Devora, which really sucked, by the way, to see. But they did some really great things, I'd say, honestly, across the board. I grew to love, like, even like Scorpion there. I was like, oh man, like, I can't believe you did that. Liu Kang again becomes, and Kung Lao, that relationship's really good. I like Raiden. I honestly really like the voice actor. I just found out through this game, and actually just a few days ago, I didn't know he was the voice of Ansem in Kingdom Hearts, one of my favorite game franchises of all time. I knew the voice sounded familiar. Now whenever I hear Raiden, I guess I'm going to think of Ansem, so maybe I screwed myself over there. But I actually really like Raiden. I think I like his like stoicness. I like how he looks. Like, I love the glowing eyes and his powers and just how kind of in charge he always is. I like it a lot, even though he makes so many mistakes, again, throughout all of these games. But at the same time, there are some lows. I think the idea to rely on kind of this multiverse travel thing, I don't think all the characters were kind of built equally. I think they struggled again with the villain, mainly also because you have such a big villain group kind of coming back, right? Like, part of her plan is to kind of bring back everybody. And so you have Shao Kahn again, and he's big, and he's like, he's in charge, and so you're going to be focusing on him. You have Liu Kang and what's left of the Revenants, right? So you have all of these kind of villain factions, and then you have Chronica, and she's big towards the end. I will say I actually really like the ending. I think it's pretty powerful. Now, there's one other part to this, and it's the Aftermath DLC. So let me throw this in right now. I'm not a fan. This is one thing I'm not a fan outside of, I guess, the actual game itself. As you're seeing, and as actually I'm experiencing playing these games, they become much more monetized. They become much more, I guess, structured in that way as the games go on. It's actually refreshing to go back to MK9 and see all the modes and see everything that's in there and not have it be kind of watered down with all these different things that they started to introduce in 10. I know Injustice did a lot of that damage as well. Injustice 1 and 2 introduced a lot of things, and then that kind of ported its way over to MK11. I'm not a fan of the 500 different outfits, and each outfit kind of has new powers. I guess that makes fighting maybe a little bit more, structured, or, a little bit more strategic. If you're doing, online, you're versing somebody. For me, as we've talked about, I just don't care. And that's okay if you don't care about what I say, but I'm just saying from my personal experience, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I'm not a fan of all the different and now what I'm talking about, I guess, here, in terms of spending money Aftermath, holy dear Jesus. So I didn't play it. I watched it. I went on YouTube and I watched the full story, and I actually quite liked it. We'll talk about that in a second. But I was not about to spend $40 for a couple DLC characters, some outfits, and then the Aftermath DLC, which maybe is like 3-4 hours for $40. I mean, I guess that's kind of in the norm of what you're getting. But here's the thing: for such a high price and for such a impactful story, like the story of Aftermath is insanely important because it directly because here's what happens, in case you guys don't know or you want my kind of version of it. So, the game ends, Mortal Kombat 11, you say, okay, well, he's going to figure out this hourglass thing, and he's going to be able to make, his new era that everybody's talking about. And then Aftermath starts and Shang Tsung walks through the portal and all this stuff, and you learn immediately that Liu Kang can't do that yet. So the ending of MK11, actually nothing would happen there. If you ended MK11, that's not the actual ending, obviously, of this little trilogy here. You have to play Aftermath. Now, again, I actually think Aftermath is pretty good. One thing I'll say, actually, I do think this is for a good thing, is I don't like to see villains win in this universe. I love Shao Kahn. I think he's super cool, and I actually really like Shang Tsung, but I don't like to see all the heroes dying. And obviously, Aftermath is played, you have the option at the end to choose, right? And there's the canonical ending, which we'll talk about. But as you're going through Aftermath, really, once Shang Tsung kind of, pulls his ace card and tricks everybody with Sindel and all this stuff, all the good guys, they get obliterated, and there is no merging of Liu Kang and Raiden. Everybody's dying, and everybody's getting their souls sucked and all this different stuff. I think it's cool, and it's interesting to see the villains just kind of wiping the floor, but then, I guess that actually shows how much I care about characters like Katana and Liu Kang and Raiden, where I don't like to see them being completely wiped out and they don't even stand a chance. But I actually think the story of Aftermath is, number one, it's very impactful, it's very necessary. Number two, I think it's actually overall very well done. Again, very cinematic. I like all the characters. Fujin, I never experienced that character before. Now, again, I'm just watching it. I didn't play it, but I think it was really pretty solid. Now, again, being the biggest issue, it's so expensive. And if you just look at the ending of MK11, that's actually not enough. You need all of Aftermath, because Liu Kang would be staring at that hourglass for all of eternity and not being able to kind of reset timelines, because that's how it would technically end. So then you get to the ending of Aftermath, and I watched both endings. Interesting, I suppose. The Liu Kang one, obviously, again, the one you're supposed to go with, and that one was pretty darn sweet, and now I'm all ready for MK1. So in terms of the story, there you go. I mean, there's my 20-minute thoughts almost on the story. Overall, pretty darn solid, cinematic, pretty awesome overall, but it does have some weaknesses. In terms of the game itself, well, actually, there's not much to talk about there, because I will say this, I think it feels a lot like MK10 in terms of the feel. Now, it doesn't feel as good. It removes some things that I like. Well, number one, it removes the X-ray stuff, which I didn't actually know that at all. So there's no X-rays anymore. The fatalities are still great. It still overall feels great. I will say, I think I'm continuing to get better. It's kind of my progress report in each of these videos to tell you how good I am or how bad I am. And I'm still terrible, right? If I went online, and I did that in the MK1 beta, I would get absolutely crushed, okay? I don't think playing on medium in the story is enough to brace myself for the elite players that are online. However, I think this game was the biggest cakewalk of the 5. I mean, Shaolin Monks is such a different kind of game, so maybe I shouldn't count it. But of the 4, 2.5D, kind of fighting style, whatever you want to call it, this one I just sailed by. I mean, you know what? I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on this. I feel like I didn't lose once. I lost a round, but I don't think I ever had to restart where I lost 2 rounds in a fight. I honestly don't think I did that. So I feel pretty proud of myself because I felt the most in control of the characters. I felt the combos flowing. I will say, I actually think I still felt the best at this game in MK10. I think I would just say that. So, again, in terms of feel, I definitely think they took some steps back. And maybe that's because, again, of the reliance of the outfits with the different, I don't know, stances or fighting kind of moves. You get like 3 per outfit or whatever it is. Maybe it was so focused on that, and I just flat out don't care and don't even try to attempt that stuff, then maybe that kind of weakens it for me. And that's why, I mean, there's not even that much to say right about the combat portion of this. And also I noticed, again, like I'm not out here putting 20 hours into every mode in this game, or I guess all of the games, right? But for this, it continues the trend of like there's just not too much to do beyond the story and beyond the multiplayer. There's a little bit more, but you go back to like MK9, I'd say Mortal Kombat versus DC also had very little to do, so I guess I'd throw that in. They kind of went all the way with 9, and then they had a huge roster, right? I think it was 9 or 10, was like a gigantic roster. It's still a really big roster here, but I just feel like over time, they've lost a lot of the modes in these games, which, you know, again, to me, I'll be flat out honest. To me, I play these games, and I have for a while. It's for the story. I'm not really interested in the online. I'm not here to do all the challenge towers or to take every person to the end. I'm not going to do that. I mean, maybe over years and years and years, but it's just not something I'm interested in. So I can't pretend to care too much about it, but just my kind of observation of the franchise, I feel like they've kind of lost a little bit of the, not like fat as in like bad fat. Like I actually think that these games were meaty a little while ago, and they've lost that, I'd say, over the last little while. But overall, I really enjoyed my time. I want to end this video by saying this. I'm really happy like I went back and I did this. I was not planning on playing 5 games. I think I wanted to play like 2 Mortal Kombat games before Mortal Kombat 1. I've had a blast, and I can't tell you everything about the Mortal Kombat universe, but I feel like informed in the lore. I feel ready for Mortal Kombat 1, and I am like in. Like I like these characters a lot. I like the storylines a lot. Even though maybe I like one a little bit more than another, or one a little bit less than another, I'm in. Like I definitely would consider myself a pretty big Mortal Kombat fan, even though I'm only playing these games, I guess, for certain reasons, and I am very ready for 1. So I'm happy I did this little trilogy here of 9, 10, 11, and I'm excited to see these characters, some of them, continue, or even like how they look or how they act. Raiden will be a little different, right, because he's kind of taking back steps versus like, say, Liu Kang, who's continuing to move forward. So it's going to be interesting, but let me know what you guys think about Mortal Kombat 11 and Aftermath in the comments below. Thank you so much for supporting all of these videos. Like I said, this is probably it, at least for now, for Mortal Kombat, but I got dozens upon dozens of other games to cover on this channel, and I hope to see you guys there.